Welcome to Book Lounge by Libby. My name is Joe, and I'm so happy you're here. Season 4 is just a few weeks away. We'll be kicking things off on Monday, September 21st. So make sure you're following so you don't miss an episode. We've got a few fun bonus eps coming in September before the season even begins to just really get your gears going. And we're now back on Instagram. So if you want to follow me and hear more about the show and engage with us, you can follow at Book Lounge Pod. We brought it back and are kicking off posting next week at September. So by the time you're seeing this, it's right around the corner. It's probably happening this weekend as you're watching. And if you were following the Pro Book Nerds account in the past, we just cleaned it up, rebranded it, and refreshed it. So we're back and better than ever. We'll be doing giveaways, polls, questions, so much more. I hope you'll consider following. All right. Enough of that stuff. We've got I think I've got through my checklist now. It's that special time where we look at the upcoming releases for next month and share what on earth we're adding to our TBRs. Joining me is the wonderful Madison. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back. Y'all have seen Madison here before, and you can follow her journey on Instagram. Where can they follow your bookish shenanigans?
At simon.says.read. Simon
Perfect.
Says Read.
Simon Says Read, and follow the direction. Just listen to Simon. It is linked in the show notes. Madison, do you have seasons of reading? Do you find you read certain types of books at certain times, or is that just
100%? I'm very seasonal, and I always find myself in a little bit of a slump around this time of year because especially here in Ohio where the weather likes to be the worst. I don't it. It hasn't been good summer reading weather the past couple weeks. It's been so rainy,
super
but it
rainy.
Feels very early to get into the spooky season stuff, at least for me personally. I know some people are already way ahead of me. But I've been in a little bit of a slump where I'm I'm going to talk about so many books today that are the best books to read in fall. And I'm very excited for September. But for me, August tends to be more of the beach read, the summery reads. And Ohio hasn't been cooperating with me lately.
We have not been very beachy. It has been so rainy and so just you don't know what to expect because it's also, I don't know, it's hot and wet and awful.
Yeah.
But also then there's a tornado for 10 seconds. Who knows? Truly at this point, it feels like everything is happening all at once. So what season, once you get through the slump, because I think I'm with you. I'm always reading some kind of horror, but the horror that takes me the Halloween spooky route does happen a little closer to October. This is my summer camp thriller kind of horror time. What is your season for September as we head into it?
Definitely lots of fantasy and lots of historical fiction. As we head into fall, those tend to be the two ones that I really hone in on. There's a couple that I'm going to talk about today that fall a little bit outside of that, but you'll see the fall vibes still peeking through.
Yeah.
But fantasy and historical fiction, or any combination, some historical fantasy, if you will. Also definitely a big moment for me. But yeah.
I love that. So your list today is kind of what you would expect to see from yourself.
Yes.
And you'll call them out as you get there, but I do have some auto borrow authors that are popping up with releases. Okay.
Yes. We've got some big ones.
We really do. There's so much coming out. I don't know how we're going to get all of these books in before the end of the year. Just looking at what's coming, it's kind of really, how many more things can we handle right now?
Yes. Yeah. And they're all books that I feel I need to read right the moment they come out. So I don't know how that's going to work.
I don't either. I'm usually pretty patient. I don't know. There'll be books that I'm eagerly anticipating, so deeply waiting for. And then I'll get an early copy, or it'll be the day that they come out. And I'd be I'm going to wait 2 weeks for the audiobook to come and be available. Or, I gotta do this instead. Or I'm in the middle of this and I have to finish that up. But then there are some days where book arrive and before the bookstore's paper is even off of it, I'm already 20 pages deep. So this month I struggled to narrow down my list as usual, which is pretty normal. So I'm going to start off with like an honorable mention uh, gauntlet, I guess. Some are on this list because I could not, in good conscience, recommend it. And that's really just one book because I'm reading it to go, what on earth is happening? And I don't think that'll be a hot take when I get to it. And then some because, like, oh, we might be talking about it later, or any number of things. So I'm just going to dive in. The book that I was talking about comes out September 1st. This is my shady pick. It's The Most Dangerous Games by Mr. Beast and James Patterson.
It's one of those things that you read and you're like, did my brain just stop working for a second?
It's one of those things where you just like you think to yourself like, am I having some sort of event or
You
episode right now?
you're like, I'm hallucinating. Like those words don't belong together in a sentence.
None of these things go together. Like I think it's a pretty well-known joke in the library world of James Patterson, like destroying all library shelves with having too many books. But Mr. Beast, Jimmy, oh, double Jimmy. I'm so sorry. I have never watched any of your content, Mr. Beast. I respect the grind. Surprised to see him writing. Also, when I quick went through the description, it looks pretty fun. It looks like a Hunger Games adjacent kind of book. It's like a survival thriller of some sort, but I know I'm failing at making this gauntlet move quickly. I have to read it. I have to read it. I don't know the last time I read a James Patterson book. Probably the Maximum Ride books back when I was in middle school.
That's definitely for me. Yeah.
The last James Patterson book, and I wouldn't even say it was the last Maximum Ride book. It was just of that era, because I need to know what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
So that one's on my list purely because, like, what? Similarly, but positively, Lois Lowry has a new book coming out. And again, like one of the most brilliant writers of our time, so outspoken in the fight against book bans, so many important things here. So the last book, the James Patterson Mr. Beast, comes out September 1st. Lois Lowry's book, Building 903, will come out September 29th. So you got to make it to the end of the month. But it is a story about censorship, comfort, complicity, and the radical power of books to open portals and unlock our humanity through our most powerful tool, the imagination. Again, a lot of these on my list are just like big names you're going to see pop up on a lot of lists. So just a quick run through. On September 22nd, John Green, Hollywood Ending, new John Green book coming, just in case you didn't hear about it. Similarly, also on the 22nd, Alma Katsu's book Incarnate is coming out, fiction horror thriller. I couldn't not include it because love Alma's writing. Also, The Picture of Dorian Gray for the Internet Age. Why not? And then last but certainly not least, also on September 22nd, this one is in here because I don't need to give it too much time because you're going to hear a whole conversation with this author about it. It is Sometimes I Scare Myself by Geneva Rose. This is her debut into horror writing. And we will have a little conversation. I got to interview Geneva about this book. So check that out. Those are my honorable mentions. Do you want me to give you my first pick or do you want to start us off?
Oh, it's up to you. Be my guest if you want to get going.
Okay, I guess I'll dive in. My first book, the first book on my list, this is one of my auto borrow authors. I am always here for everything she does. It is Kiss, Slay, Replay by Rachel Harrison, out September 1st. Again, I love Rachel Harrison's writing. I think there's something for everyone in what she writes. And this one, I want to see her take on a wedding. Every wedding guest's worst nightmare is on repeat in this wild and twisty new horror novel from the New York Times bestselling author of So Thirsty and Play Nice. It's the picture-perfect wedding weekend. The venue is dreamy, the weather is beautiful, love is in the air, and Willa Sullivan is having a bad time. She's excited to celebrate her best friends finally having the big wedding they've always wanted, but this is the first time she's seen her ex-fiancé in months. And he brought a date. Everything feels off, like she stumbled into an alternate universe. But things start to look up when Willa meets Danny, the groom's charming and single childhood best friend. When they sneak off together, their rendezvous is interrupted by a masked killer terrorizing the reception. Willa and Danny fight to save the ones they love and survive the night, but the killer is unrelenting. a final girl, Willa is not. Or is she? She wakes up and it's the morning of the wedding. She just had the most intense nightmare of her life. Only as the day unfolds, there are some uncanny coincidences that make her question whether it was really a dream, deja vu, or something more sinister. After a horrifying turn of events, Willa comes to understand that she's stuck in a loop of carnage and terror, that she must learn how to escape or else suffer a fate worse than death, being an eternal wedding guest. I know.
Wait, I love that. I had not heard the description of that book before just now, and I have not read any of her books, but I know we've got some
Oh,
major fans of her over here at
major.
Libby. But The Eternal Wedding Guest, I'm so sorry if anybody is listening to this that I've gone to their wedding this year, but that has been my life this year. We're
Yeah,
just in that season, and I've had like my first like 2 weekends in a row without weddings these past 2 weekends, literally since May. And
wow.
I just literally, as you said, wedding guests, I was like, no, no, no
No,
more weddings. We're not going back. And
please no.
I love all of these people and I've had a very great time at their weddings. But
Absolutely.
as you know, there's, especially when you're a little bit of an introvert and maybe you
Mhm.
don't know a lot of the people who are going to be there,
Absolutely.
takes a lot out of you. It's your own sort of little horror moment.
It sure does. There is nothing worse for me with my introversion and anxiety than just being in a room full of strangers for a lot of hours.
Yes, yes. And that has been a lot of the weddings I've been to because they're like
Yeah.
friends, coworkers, acquaintances of my husband's.
Yeah.
So they're not even like my like I barely even know like the people who are getting married. I'm very much
Right.
like the plus one.
You are the date
And
that week. Yeah.
yes, and my husband is a first on the dance floor, last off the dance floor type of person.
Oof.
So I when I'm there, I am there and I am right beside him no matter the situation. So it's can be exhausting. Oh my gosh, that sounds like such a good book though.
Right.
I like the little time loop aspect of it.
I am a sucker for the kind of like time loop groundhog day of it all. I think it's something that it's been enough time in pop culture that like we've got enough TV shows that have done one-offs here and there that it's not oversaturated anymore. And I don't think we ever really see it quite this way. I think like Happy
Yeah.
Death Day is the last
Yeah.
horror time loop I can really think of. So this kind of vibe, especially making it a wedding, like Rachel Harrison loves to pull the like actual pain for her horror and put it in some very camp settings. So I think the concept of like manifesting anxiety as like what if you had to be a wedding guest forever, I think is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Can't wait to read this. Kiss Slay Replay, Rachel Harrison, September 1st.
Great title too.
Right?
Fantastic. All right. So I'm going to apologize in advance. My first choice is the second book in a duology. So to anybody who has not read the first, I am so sorry.
Hey, good luck.
But
I get it.
this is by Rachel Gillig, who is my all-time fave, really. I
Yeah.
adore her books. The first book in this duology, The Night and the Moth, came out just about a year ago, and it has been living rent-free in my brain ever since. Rachel Gillig is better known for her series One Dark Window, both incredible, incredible gothic fantasy vibes for the fall. Very eerie, just great, like ancient settings. So, book number 2, The Stonewater Kingdom duology, is coming out on September 1st, and it is called The Knave and the Moon. Aisling Cathedral is in ruins. Roderick Mendacious, Bartholomew, and Maud Bauer are rumored to be dead, and the king has taken Sybil Delling as his bride. To show off their union and solidify his power over Traum, Benji proposes a series of tournaments throughout the hamlets. Captive and drugged, Sybil remains determined to vanquish him as she once did the Omens, even if she destroys the kingdom's faith and herself in the process. But then a mysterious knave rises to the top of the tournament list, a man with no name and no memory who may just be Sybil's ticket to undoing Benji's power. For in a land where stories repeat themselves, where a king can prove as cruel as a god. The only way to truly destroy the Stonewater Kingdom's faith is to save it.
Ooh, you know what? The names alone, you could tell it was fantasy.
Oh, yes. Yes,
And
and
I love it.
luckily, a fantasy that I, had listened to the audiobook for, so I know how to
Yes.
pronounce them. Yes, it's a great duology. I highly recommend checking out The Knight and the Moth if it's not one that you're familiar with, but like I said, lots of gothic fantasy. There's a cathedral. There are I don't wanna call them nuns, but kind of like
Like the
nuns who have
nuns,
their
yeah.
eyes covered, like they've grown up in,
Whoa.
this cathedral, they've never been to the outside world. It's it's incredible. There's, a talking, sentient gargoyle. Incredible.
Okay. I mean, hey, and what do you think of a duology?
I love a duology. I am
Right,
very especially in the fantasy world, I am
right.
very pro duology because sometimes one book just isn't enough to capture the world that you have created, and I don't think it does justice to what an author has, gone through, all this creative turmoil to create to only be captured in one book, or if it is one book, it's one, lengthy book.
Massive, yeah.
Um,
I
and
feel like
sometimes
with
the series are a little bit overdone, so
absolutely, I feel like with sci-fi and fantasy, it was either, right, you've got a single book, a trilogy, or, right, a series that's, like,
yes. Or,
going
8
on
books,
forever.
yeah.
Right, exactly, but I think the trilogy was so overdone.
Yes.
Like, I think very often book 2 was, like, an unnecessary bridge between book 1
Yes.
and book 3, and 3 books is a lot. I don't there's something about it that, 3 books is a lot of commitment. 2 books does not feel like a lot of commitment for whatever reason, because also, I really like that stamp where you just know that it's done.
Yes, this
Plan
is
was
where
2
it
books the whole
ends,
time.
yeah.
Exactly.
This is
Because
where it
I think
ends.
even when they if they start by promising a trilogy, it's so easy to push that into a
Oh,
4th book and a
yes.
5th book.
I can think of many series that have done
Absolutely.
that, and the 4th and 5th have not been great.
Exactly. So, very happy to see that, but, I still feel like we need a better name for it. I don't know.
I know, I don't
It
like
always weirds me
duology.
out when I see it.
Yes, and I'm a strong believer in most cases, as somebody who reads a lot of series, big and small, that the second book is almost always the worst one in the series.
Yeah.
It just it's a
Yeah.
lot of world building, it's a lot of, unnecessary stuff, I
A
feel
little bit of
like.
recovery to remind
Yeah.
you what you had happen in book 1,
Yes.
a little bit about how we're here, and then it has
Yes.
to wrap up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like in a duology, you just don't get that. You're going right from one to the other, you've only got so many pages to, fit this story in. Yeah,
And
I've
the
been a big
expectation
fan.
is that, the expectation is if you're gonna read this, you probably should reread or brush up on if it's been
Yes.
a significant amount of time.
Yes, and it's so easy to reread one book instead of rereading all of them.
Yes. Or even, even if we were still heavy in trilogies, it's still easier to
Yes.
just reread one book. So,
Yes.
yeah, even though I struggle with the naming convention, I'm here for it. I don't
Yes.
know. It's nice. Well, my next pick, the cover got me because a cover will always get me. This is The Dating Game by Ali Zetterberg, out September 8th. It's a good little thriller. It's a clever and surprising thriller about the perils of modern dating and the female rage it sometimes inspires. A board game designer starts playing by her own rules, and losers won't be tolerated. The friendship game, the dating game, the end game. For board game designer Tilda Smith, they're all necessary steps on the path to finding happiness. By structuring her life according to a set of rules, just like in the games that she loves to create at her job, Tilda can finally win. The only problem? The other players don't know they're playing by Tilda's rules. She's fair, very fair, in fact, but then one night her date pushes her too far and she gets just a bit carried away. Any player who disappoints must face consequences, right? But as Tilda finds herself transporting a body in a laundry bag, she has to question how to make the punishment fit the crime. And now someone is watching Tilda and playing a game of their own. Will they turn the tables on her, or can she figure out a way to best them? The game is never really over until she says it is. Game on. So again, that is The Dating Game by Ali Zetterberg, out September 8th.
There are layers to unpack there.
Layers.
Layers. Oh my
Uh-huh.
God.
I don't know what to expect because honestly, that description didn't give me anything.
No.
But what it gave me, I really want to figure out.
Yeah. Okay. Board game,
First
we've
off,
got a
board game
body and a
designer,
laundry bag.
right?
How did we
Yeah,
get from one to the other?
I would love to know, but I also, there's a part of this that to me, depending on what the tone is like in the writing, it could skew a little you, like Joe Goldberg. And I'm okay with that because if this is kind of that route that I'm getting this very analytical, clinical kind of approach from our main character, I would be very much entertained by that.
Yeah. That sounds really,
Yeah,
really good.
I'll let you know how it is.
Yeah. I always, when I'm reading new books, discover jobs I didn't know or didn't think about the fact that they existed.
Well, right. When I hear board game designer, I always just kind of think like, oh, someone had an idea for a board game one day and they like one-off pitched it like you would on Shark Tank
Yeah.
kind of thing. You just like went to Milton Bradley himself and said, hi, how about Hughes and Cues? I know that's not a Milton Bradley game, but whatever. And
Yeah.
then they make it. But no, there are people. there are people just coming
Yeah.
up with new games.
In corporate America, sitting in their little cubicle.
In corporate America, anything is commodifiable.
Yep. That sounds good.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. My next one, another big author for me, R.F. Kuang has a new book coming out called Taipei Story. And this next book of hers is coming out September 8th. And I actually heard an excerpt from this book. She was recently, as in in March, was in Cleveland with the Cuyahoga County Public Library. They brought her in for a talk. And that was the first I'd really heard anything about this story.
Mhm.
And I am incredibly excited for it. R.F. Kuang is one of those writers where you read her stuff and you're like, you are just so much smarter than I have the
Yeah.
capability of even being.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. College freshman Lily Chen is off to spend the summer in Taipei at an intensive language program, like so many Chinese American students before her, hoping to connect with the culture she inherited but never fully understood. But a promising start quickly unravels. Her classes are grueling, her roommate is driving her insane, and a reckless trip to the hot springs with a guy she barely knows soon has her classmates viciously gossiping. She feels adrift, a foreigner in a country that she thought would feel like home. Then shocking news arrives. Lily's grandfather has passed away. The loss forces her to grapple with now unanswerable questions about her family history. As Lily grieves, she's drawn into a journey of self-discovery, piecing together memories, stories, and silences over a series of hilarious and devastating attempts at connection. Taipei Story asks, what if the diaspora fantasy of homecoming never comes true? What if learning a language can't bring you any closer to the people you're trying to reach? What if you search for your family's history, but your family doesn't want to share? What if you wait too long to ask the right questions? As Lily struggles for answers, her summer becomes a poignant search for understanding of herself, her family, and the meaning of home.
You made such a great point of R.F. Kuang is just one of those authors who is just so smart. And I think when you look at descriptions like that, when you hear those descriptions and you look at all of their books and you're just like, what can't you tackle? Like, what aren't you going to try?
Yes.
And so, like, that sounds so good. And, like, you know what to expect in terms of tone and pacing, but also you don't. And I think that's exciting.
Yes. That's the thing. I've read not all of R.F. Kuang's books, but a decent amount of them.
Yeah.
And yes, you know that they are R.F. Kuang's books. But if you just randomly were handing them out to people on the street and be like, guess which of these books were written by the same author? I don't think you'd be able, the talent is not limited to a genre, which
Right.
I know there are lots of authors out there, but to be able to, she doesn't have a niche that she has to stick to.
Right. To be so successful across multiple genre and have developed tone for both. That it's not like,
Yes.
oh, this is R.F. Kuang doing romance. Like, or we're not just like, you're not James
Yeah.
Pattersoning it with like,
Yeah.
name slapped on book with other author. It's truly just the like an actual exploration. I think there's something about that like if you want to give her writing a try, there's a lot of ways in that you can find a genre you already appreciate and see how you feel about it.
Yes.
Also, when I see people talking about her books, I'm never skeptical of it. Like that's, there are so many popular authors and I say it every time, like every book is for someone and I don't care what you're reading as long as you're reading. But sometimes you see the books that you're like, oh, well, that's probably whatever. Like, that's not my niche. That's not my genre. And so you skew away from it, but you still hear everyone talking about it and you're curious.
Yeah.
But like, it's not my lane. That is one of those where I'm like, well, if everyone starts talking about this, like they
Yeah.
were with Yellowface, I know I could walk in and be like, doesn't matter if this is my typical or not, I'm still going to have a great time.
Absolutely.
Well, if I'm anything, I'm YA trash. And my next pick, the title got me. I saw it in like one of the publisher's weekly releases of what was coming. Your Boyfriend Needs an Exorcist. I think that says it all. It's by Justine Pucello Winans, out September 1st. If that wasn't enough, all I saw was like the quick log line. Jennifer's body meets the weight of blood, and I was sold. It's a horror comedy about an evil spirit looking for a second chance at love and life. Just because Skylar is a bloodthirsty evil spirit doesn't mean she can't fall in love. Ever since Ren Castillo moved into the house Skylar haunts, she's been crushing hard. But Ren has a boyfriend, Enzo, and he's the worst. Skylar has no choice but to watch as Enzo treats Ren terribly until she accidentally possesses him. With Enzo's spirit nowhere to be found, Skylar must pretend to be him until she can set things right. But Skylar feels more at home in Enzo's body than she ever did in her own. And as she grows closer to his family and friends, including Ren, she then starts to wonder if this could all be for keeps. Maintaining a possession is harder than Skylar expected, though, and it might just take some spilled blood to keep her new body going strong. Worse, it turns out she's not the only one interested in stealing Enzo's body. When another evil spirit threatens everyone Skylar now holds dear, she must decide how far she's willing to go to secure her second chance at love and life. So again, Your Boyfriend Needs an Exorcist, Justine Pucello Winans, September 1st. I mean, what a wild description, right?
Yes. Just like, yeah, this might be better than the alternative.
I'm so in because it sounds ridiculous.
Yes.
And I mean that with all the love in my heart, because I sometimes you just need like a YA romp to make you go, oh,
yeah.
Everything doesn't have to be serious. Some things can just be horror comedy.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't
know.
even have words to describe
There's
everything
I
that's
feel
going
like,
through my head.
right. That's just one of those of like, well, I put a mysterious parcel in your lap and now you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
What do I even say?
Yeah.
What do you have next for us? Yeah.
I've got another sequel. So sorry once again.
Good luck.
This one, I would say, is for my Gossip Girl lovers. This is The Thoroughbreds by Ellen Hilderbrand and her daughter Shelby Cunningham. So this is the sequel to The Academy, which came out around the same time last year. And I read it right when it came out. It was my only time ever reading Ellen Hilderbrand. I know she's got like a million books out there.
Yeah.
But the cover caught my eye one day when I was strolling, and I said, why not? Let's see what's in store for us here. All right, so let's dive in. September at Tiffin Academy is always a heady time, especially for the senior class, sixth formers in Tiffin speak. A season of college applications and intense pressure, of partying hard and last hurrahs. As the chapel bell rings in students and staff, everyone has something to look forward to. But in the midst of anticipation and excitement, nagging questions and dark secrets lurk beneath the surface. Are Tiffin's it couple, Charlie and East, on the rocks? What sparked the rift between football star Dub and his best friend Hakeem? Will Pippa Sack's posh day student topple the delicate social hierarchy or wreak even worse havoc? Can head of school Audra Robinson save her job and the school after a disastrous financial mistake? And what was in that email attachment Cinnamon Peters sent to Dub before she died?
I'm just laughing at Cinnamon Peters.
Cinnamon Peters.
Hell yeah.
It's one of those. So after reading The Academy, it very much was one of those situations, and like, no hate to anybody here, where like it catches your eye and you pick it up and you're like, this could be like the best thing or like the worst thing that I have ever read. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's like prize-winning literature.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things that as soon as I started it, and I started it again, it was like back to school time. Like everyone's kind of in that mindset, even if you're like me and you're not going back to school. I've got nobody in my life going back to school. But it kind of captured that nostalgia for me. And I love Gossip Girl. I love anything set at like a boarding school. That was like my dream when I was younger. All of the books that I read were like kids at boarding schools. And I was like, I want to go to a boarding school. And as an adult looking back, I'm like, I would have hated that so much.
Would have been the worst case
scenario. Would have been
scenario.
Terrible. Like, I love to be home. Why would I want to go somewhere else?
I'm proud to say that like in all of the times where I was reading as a child books with boarding schools, I was always like, but is there a version where I just come home every day? Because I don't want that.
Yes. The only one, oh my gosh, I can't even remember what it was called. Oh, I want to say it was called like Canterwood Crest. It was like a horse boarding school. Like, so all these like equestrians go to it.
Absolutely.
And, like, I took horseback riding lessons growing up. Like, so this is like my dream. I was like, I want to go live at this school and like ride the horses. And, but then also like that nagging voice in the back of your head that's like, hey, aren't you kind of like going to school and also riding horses, but like here?
Aren't you kind of already living this dream?
But getting to like, you know, sleep in your own bed every night.
Be at home. Yeah. Not live in a dorm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's where the fascination started. But I read it last year. It's just one of those things that it reels you in. And I actually my whole book club is reading it for our meeting next week. And I'm like, the sequel's not out yet. So you're all going to get looped in. And then maybe in a couple months from now, we'll reconvene and we'll all read the second one. And I'm also realizing like, with my book club looming around the corner and reading this description, that there's definitely things that I've forgotten and I probably need a refresher.
You're like, oops, I wasn't going to reread it because it was with me, but now I might need to skim.
Yes. Literally, for our next couple picks, like we did 3 months out and 2 of the 3 I had already read. And now as they're getting closer, I'm like, oh.
What happened?
I'm not going to be a good conversationalist.
I can't rely on my sense of recall because once I finish a book, I just remember how it made me feel. Not a single thing that happened in it. So, but I also love that. I think it's perfect. I think it's a perfect follow up to my like. It's like 2 sides of the same coin. Yes. Honestly, there's like the spooky side and the Gossip Girl thriller side, and I'm here for both. I also love what you said of like, I'm not going to pretend it's high literature. Because again, I think that's just like my mission to be over here screaming, it doesn't matter what you read as long as you're reading. Like, please absolutely just pick up. If you want to read trash with us, come on.
Yes.
And if you love that trash, so do we. You're in good company.
Absolutely. And maybe every once in a while pick up something that's a little bit outside of what you normally read. And who knows, maybe something will happen.
I guess every once in a while I'll read like a good book, like a critically acclaimed book if I must.
Every once in a while something will come across my desk that will make me a better person.
It's true, and it really is that way. Like against all of my best intentions, I do end up reading like really good, air quotes for listeners, books. But you know, speaking of reading out of your comfort zone, my next pick falls in that trend for me. So first off, shameless plug, if you are one of our amazing podcast listeners / Spotify podcast watchers, but you have not checked out the Libby app YouTube channel, Not only can you see all of our wonderful video versions of the show on the YouTube channel as you can on Spotify, you also get to see bonus content where I do unboxings from all of our wonderful publishers who send stuff to me. And this book was in a recent unboxing from Simon & Schuster. Very excited to check it out. As I said, not my usual genre, but something about it caught me. This is from James Islington. This is coming out September 1st, and it's called Scion. So it is science fiction, which again, not my usual, but I'm here for it because it's listed as John Wick meets Ghost in the Shell in this fast-paced cyberpunk thriller. So I like all of those words individually. I'd love to see how they get smashed together. My job, when you think about it, isn't so different from a lot of people's. The more old-fashioned crowd do still get hung up on the killing people part of it, I guess, but that's a them problem. It's been perfectly legal to take out lifers for ages. Besides, once ultra-wealthy morons realized they had a way to live forever, limited resources be damned, there was only ever going to be one genuinely practical deterrent. So sure, I have to deal with a ton of boring planning, inconvenient hours, some pretty awkward face-to-face interactions, and like most of us, I'm really only clocking in to try to crawl out from beneath my debts. But someone's got to do it. Luckily, my genetic compatibilities make me really, really good at doing it. Still, this next job, I don't know. It's something I haven't had to deal with in years. Kind of the opposite of my regular duties. Strange that it got thrown my way. I'm sure it'll all go totally fine, though. Again, Scion, James Islington, September 1st. Not necessarily a very helpful description, but essentially we are in the future, some form of dystopia where people with a bunch of money have found a way to live forever. So they are eating up resources, and it is our main character's job as essentially a hitman to find those people and take them out. I don't know much more than what we just read through. And a vague other description I looked at like a month ago. But yeah, this has trappings of some other, like, because again, I want to love sci-fi. I just struggle to find my fit in the sci-fi space. And this has trappings of some of the other sci-fis I really enjoy. So I think this will be big for me.
I've got like so many unanswered questions
Me
from
too.
that description. Like, are the lifers, is that what we called them? Are the lifers in hiding?
Right.
Do they look really, really old? Like, how do we know
I
who
would
they
love
are?
to know. Like, I'm envisioning like a Hunger Games capital scenario where they're just like,
Yes.
in their penthouses and in wonderful spaces, and he has to like break in to get them. And I
Yeah.
assume that they look really old, or old, but also probably like surged, just like the most plastic surgery imaginable. Uh, yeah, this is what I'm determining off of that very little bit. I also want to know, like, how is it a job? Who's hiring him?
Yeah, who's
What do
paying
they
for
get out of
this?
it? Right. Like, are these oh, it's probably family members who want the money. Right? Like, grandpa won't die and I won't get my inheritance because he's living forever. I could look it up, but that would simply be too
See,
easy.
in my head, I was thinking like they found a way to stay alive forever, but it's like illegal. So like maybe the government is paying to take them out.
Oh.
Like that's where my head was going. Or like, I don't know. I went a different way than you did.
I like the way that you went with that. As I'm like, oh no, the description on Simon and Schuster's website is the same as the one I just read.
Yeah, no, like there's no other information for us to go off of.
There's
I guess
zero
we'll have to read it.
information. Oh darn,
Oh,
was gonna do it
darn.
anyway. I guess I'll read it. Ooh, sorry, the edges are visible on Goodreads. Fantastic. Looks gorge. It's got the whole like the same pattern continued around. Um yeah, I'm like, okay, did anyone get an arc and review it? Interesting and high concept premise. Nope. Darn, nothing. Nothing. Oh, lifers are those that have enough money to practically live forever and people are not happy. Yeah, no, nothing. Nothing. Oh, darn. I am just going to have to read it.
We'll figure
Anyway,
it out in a few short weeks.
yeah, we'll report back in September.
Yep.
Follow the Instagram. Maybe I'll be talking about it on there.
All right. So, speaking of taking lives,
Oh, yes.
my next
Love
book,
that segue.
my next choice is a paranormal romance by B.K. Borison, and it is Grim Tidings. So, this takes place in the same world as Good Spirits, which was her paranormal romance that came out sometime last year. It was very hot this year around the holidays, as it should be. And that was a ghost of Christmas past or present situation. This time we've got a Grim Reaper. So, when a runaway Grim Reaper tries to save a life, she clashes with a skeptical guardian, forcing them to form an unlikely partnership beyond the grave. Darcy Moore is tired of death, which would be fine and good if she wasn't a Grim Reaper. Determined to outrun her designation as the villain, Darcy decides she won't be dragging her next assignment to the underworld. She'll be saving him instead. Unfortunately for Darcy, there's a complication in her plan. Guardian angel Gabriel Atos doesn't tolerate threats to his little corner of the world, and a Grim Reaper showing up at his bar is as deadly as it gets. But when he realizes Darcy is not as she seems, Gabriel must decide if he can trust his growing feelings or hold on to his long-standing grudge. But magic doesn't come without consequences, and the Department of Hauntings and Spirits will eventually come calling for their missing Reaper.
Incredible.
Yes.
Incredible.
And this is a little enemies to lovers action for all of my tropes fans out there.
I'm so into weird romances right now. Romance has never been one of my genres. And then I read the Goliaths of Wrestling series, and now I'm like, oh, what weird combo of like situations can I enjoy? And that to me, I love that kind of like like sure it's paranormal, but like it's vague. It's barely
Yes.
paranormal. Like in concept alone. And that's where I'm like, is this my romance ticket?
Yes, I read Good Spirits last year, like in between like Christmas and New Year's time. So like perfect timing. And it's very much one of those things where you're like, okay, like, yes, this kind of falls into like the fantasy spectrum.
Right.
But like it's like you're dipping a toe in it.
That's like technicality, brass tacks kind of like, yes, it does, but does it really count? Yeah.
Yeah. And I really love B.K. Borison's books. I feel like
Absolutely.
everything I've read by her, like they're funny and just fresh and good. Like fresh while also, having all of the tropes that
all
we
the
love
tropes
and
we love,
enjoy. But yeah, I really liked Good Spirits. So I'm excited for Grim Tidings. I did request an arc of this one and I like instantly got the denial email. So unfortunately for me,
bummer.
I am going to have to wait just a little bit longer. September 15th is when this one comes out.
We're almost there.
Almost there. Less than a month. I'll make it.
Which is terrifying when you think of it.
Oh, yeah. No, this is definitely freaking me out as I'm thinking about how much time I have before these come out.
Right. As I'm like, no, where's the year going? My next pick will be a surprise to no one when they hear the description. But I don't know. I'm always on the hunt for like a little bit weird, always on the hunt for a little bit of horror. I'm always evangelizing for why we should read books in translation to expand our reading repertoire and what we come to expect in certain genres. And this knocks off quite a few things, or at least I think it will. This is Asmodeus by Rita Indiana. Translation from, I cannot read the text. It looks like Archie Obejas. Sorry. We'll include that in the show notes. But this will be out September 1st. I don't have to wait too long for most of my picks. This is a hallucinatory thriller about a failing demon's search for a new host in post-dictatorship Santo Domingo. That alone, what are we in for? Who knows? Let's find out. Asmodeus, a millennia-old demon, has inhabited Rudy, a once legendary Dominican rock star, for decades. But in 1992, the demon's powers begin to fade. What follows is a desperate week-long odyssey as Asmodeus ricochets through the bodies of the inhabitants of Santo Domingo's underworld, from Guinea, a young metalhead plotting a warehouse heist, to Mireia, a daughter of a former torturer, to other souls caught in his chaotic orbit. Each possession reveals another layer of a city still reeling from the Balagur dictatorship, and each new host engenders a surprising tenderness in the demon. From acclaimed musical artist and author Rita Indiana, Asmodeus is written in urgent prose, punctuated by original decimas, 10-line rhyming poems drawing from Latin American musical and oral tradition. Indiana weaves together Dominican heavy metal, black magic, and political trauma. Asmodeus is a supernatural noir, riotous thriller, and a searing portrait of a nation grappling with its complicated past. So again, Asmodeus, Rita Indiana, September 1st. I mean,
that
what the hell did I just read?
That last sentence with like the metal and the political and all, I felt like those videos of like the dogs where it's like playing my dog's favorite sounds to see, and I'm like, what? Like, like
yes,
that string of words meant
Dominican
nothing
heavy
to
metal,
me, but meant
black
everything.
Magic. Right. Yes. It's so true though. I'm like, even as I'm reading it, I'm like, huh?
Yes.
What? This is one of those books that like I needed to have on my list. I know nothing about it. I'm not super familiar with Rita Indiana, but I know this will give me knowledge that I want to have in my brain. And I also know that this is one of those titles that like maybe not a lot of people are going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I hope that you heard it here first. Like I feel like there is something here, and possession stories always intrigue me. They always spook me. And I think this specifically where we're like, oh, well, POV, you're the demon. Like, okay, I guess we'll see where this goes. So yeah, I'm interested in checking it out. I also think Latin American literature and translation, especially in horror, does it in such a cerebral way compared to a lot of the like. It's not the lit and translation I typically skew towards. So it's I'm always excited when like a lot of my strange check boxes light up for a Latin American in translation title.
Yeah, that one sounds fantastic. And it's literally one of
Wild
those things
ride.
where I'm like, what did I just... And as you're saying about like the possession and like from that point of view, it's got me thinking I don't know that I've...
Ever
Or if
seen
I
that?
have, it's been like
Yeah.
a very long time since I've read something where there was like the main character was the demon doing the possessing. I mean, I've seen TV shows, I've seen movies, but it's got me thinking that I don't know that I've actually read something that's been from that point of view.
I don't know the last time I read something like this. I mean, I guess I haven't read this yet, so who knows what who knows what vibes I'll get. But from that description, it's also the like, yeah, even in movies and TV, you'll get the monologue from the demon or
Yes.
from the entity. Or even when you read a book that has like, again, POV, you're the demon, it's usually sanitized in some way, like in the sense of, even if we go back to like BK Boris and like hardly supernatural romance, if the Grim Reaper was instead a demon, it's not like she wouldn't be writing the demon with the intention of them seeming like a demon. It would just be, this character is a demon, fill in the bubble, like visual cues. Whereas I'm guessing this will kind of be like demon thoughts, actions,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds incredible.
We'll see.
The next book that I have is The Pirate Queen, and I'm going to apologize because I know this author and I don't know how to pronounce her last name. This is by Ariel Lahan. I'm not sure. She's the author of The Frozen River and I Was Anastasia.
Yeah.
So I know her, but I don't know how to pronounce her last name, so my apologies.
It's all good.
This is a sweeping historical adventure inspired by the life of Grace O'Malley, the legendary Irish folk heroine who risked everything to defend her people. Grace O'Malley was born to be a sea captain, but despite her natural skill on the water, Grace learns early that her dreams of a life at the helm are not compatible with the expectations of her noble family. As the only daughter of a powerful chieftain, Her role is to secure a strong alliance and bear children. But when she's sent to foster with a nearby clan, Grace falls for a clever and open-minded second son, a man she cannot have. Married off against her will to a brutal warrior, Grace performs her duty, all the while gathering followers loyal to her and consolidating her husband's power, only to be ousted from his lands. But this betrayal offers Grace the opportunity to return to sea, finally leading Clan O'Malley's mighty fleet. Just as she finds true independence, Queen Elizabeth's incursions into Ireland grow bolder, and Grace must fight to defend her lands, her ship, and the people she loves most against the cruel and power-hungry English deputies, who will stop at nothing to check her influence. Keenly observed and fiercely written, Ariel Lahan's new action-packed novel channels the untamed beauty and harsh realities of 16th century Ireland.
Hot take. Give me more pirate books, please. Right?
Okay.
There are pirate books.
Yes.
But there aren't a lot, or they don't all do what I want them to do.
So when this came across my desk, my immediate thought was pass, because I have read, I hadn't read the description yet. And it wasn't until I saw the name of the author that I stopped and said, wait, this isn't what I think it is. Bring it back. Because I've read some pirate books recently, and I'm not going to name names because they were terrible. Sorry, they were terrible.
And follow Madison on Storygraph to find out what those were.
I mean, but they were
No, I get it.
So, and they were pirate books, but this is very much like historical fiction, which is what I want, I think, at this point in a pirate book.
You want it to actually be a pirate book.
A lot of the stuff that I have read lately, and when I say lately, not even like necessarily the past year or so, but like in the past couple years, because romantasy is so big, it's been a lot of like pirate romantasies. And I feel like, the main character is always like a female pirate. Love it. Great. And it's like it could just be a romance. It doesn't need to be a pirate, like romantasy.
Oh, right. Like just make her a swashbuckler and let's go crazy.
Yes.
I do want to clarify, like, I'm with you, because every time in the last handful of years, I think even then it wasn't as clear, like romantasy was still like branding out.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always so clear in the descriptions that like, this is just a romance with a tinge of pirate. I'd get so excited, and then I'd like never pick them up, or I'd forget to, or I'd see some of the reviews before if I was between two books, I'd go like, oh, okay, this or this. Oh, this was heavy romance. Okay, I'll skip that. So I don't know the last time I actually read a pirate book. I think I'm with you of like, it sounds like you haven't read a pirate book in a while either, even though you read a pirate book.
Like the last one I read was so bad. I literally when this came across my desk, I was like,
bye.
Get it off. Like, don't come near me. And then I like stopped, and I was like, because also the cover of the book could give historical fiction. It could give fantasy. So I immediately went to, it's not super romantasy coded by any stretch, but that's where my head went. And I had to like pause and say, well, this doesn't necessarily give me those vibes. Because the last one I read, it truly was like a pirate romantasy. And it was one of those ones where it's like, it had a very strong first chapter, and it was all downhill from there.
Oh, no.
And
they gotcha.
It sticks with you where you're like, oh, remember the last time I read something that was about a pirate? I don't know that I want to do this again. So I am excited that I revisited this, because I also I love Irish folktales. I love anything that's about Irish history. It sounds so, so good. I love that the cover is like green and gold, like very, what you expect when you're talking about like Ireland. I love it. And I feel like a lot of times, how do I want to say this?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when there are Irish elements in stories, especially if it happens to be something that's not historical fiction, if it happens to be in the romantasy, the romance fantasy category, it's not done very well. Or
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
kind of takes it without acknowledging where it came from, which also doesn't always sit well with me. Um, so I'm excited for this one because it's very clear who it's supposed to be about, what it is supposed to be about, and I think that it will, knowing the author, it will be done very well. So I'm excited for this one because there's a lot of stuff out there that does, when you really dig into like Irish and Scottish and like Celtic mythology and like history and folk tales and stuff, there's a lot of books that take from it. And then
Yes.
you don't know that that's where it comes from unless it's like, if you know, you know.
If you know,
And
you know, and it's also the like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but there's nowhere
yes,
to go like, if
yes,
you want to learn more, try these
yes,
resources or
yes.
right. So then they
Like,
sometimes get credit for things they
yeah, it's like, how
didn't
did they come
create.
up with this? And it's like almost word for word, like a folk tale that exists. Like
You're
it's
like,
existed for
so
centuries.
let
So
me unroll this scroll for
yes.
you.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where like, with Greek mythology or Egyptian mythology, it's one of those things where a lot of us know and probably because of Rick Riordan, like a lot of us know if we happen to read those as we
That's
were
why I know. Yeah.
kids or read it to our kids, but also we study it a little bit more in schools than some of like
Right.
these other things. And so it's like those, I feel like but it's always like acknowledged. It's like, yeah, this takes place in Greece.
Right.
Like,
It's always like hit you over the head with we're
yes,
going into the Pyramid of Giza.
yes,
Like
literally.
the call it is right that this is an
Yeah,
ancient curse from
yes, yes,
full like Mesopotamian name here. But yeah,
yeah. And I feel like
it's
with,
always when it's the like yeah, it's the like
yes,
Irish, Gaelic,
yeah. And it's
you
not
know,
even necessarily like just this. Like it's a lot of
totally.
cultures that get, wrapped
Oh,
up into
absolutely.
it, but I've noticed quite a lot of it with Irish and Scottish lately. So, yeah.
Oh, well, I love it. I hope it's an exciting pirate book.
Yes. Me too.
So I've always got a mix of YA and graphic novels and adult titles. I try to do it all, or at least I try to do all of what I enjoy. And this is no different. This is just from the cover alone, kind of giving me hopefully some Pretty Little Liar vibes. I'm never mad at that. It is a YA thriller. It's Mischief Girls from Ashna Avachat. Apologies on pronunciation. This will be out at the end of the month on September 29th. Every school has its secrets, but at the exclusive Ellison College, the past might prove deadly in this twisty puzzle box mystery. I also love the new trend of like building the mysteries in the puzzle box format of like, do you think you can solve it before we get to the reveal? Every school has its secrets. Ellison College freshman Raina has no idea that her new school is hiding such a grisly past. But 30 years ago on Mischief Night, the week after Halloween, 3 students walked into the woods surrounding campus, and only one came out. The killer was never caught, and the students became known as the Mischief Girls. No one knows what happened, or do they? 3 decades later, Annika, a classmate of Raina's, has gone missing. Turns out, Annika was looking into the Mischief Girls' murders before she vanished. And Raina may have been the last person to see her alive. Old lies die the hardest. With the help of Annika's stepbrother, Rohan, Raina begins to dig into the truth. But the deeper she goes, the more she starts to wonder whether what happened to Annika really began the night she disappeared, or if it goes back further. The past is catching up to Ellison College, and maybe so is a killer. So again, that is Mischief Girls, Ashna Avashat, out September 29th. I'm a sucker for a YA thriller. I have read plenty of incredible adult thrillers, but something about a YA thriller just really like I don't know, it's like popcorn to me. I can really just kind of turn my brain into I can like set the cruise control and go. And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, I feel the little bit of Pretty Little Liars.
Just a
Yeah.
touch,
Just a
just a
touch.
touch.
Um,
And back to
no,
school season,
I was
like
gonna say, like,
it's the time of year that I
yeah,
want exactly
it's
that.
perfect for fall. Like everything
Yes.
about that is giving fall vibes to me.
Yeah, I'm here for it. So hopefully it's good. That's the other thing. I'm never mad at a YA thriller for the most part
Yeah.
because like my expectations are just to have like good vibes. So I'm not I'm not judging them.
Yeah. You know what you're getting yourself into.
Exactly.
All right. My next one is going to be a little bit of a short conversation because we don't have the official blurb yet, which
Uh-oh.
is crazy because this book comes out September 29th. We have Threshing Day by Rebecca Yarros. This is the Fourth Wing novella that is coming out. So this is not book 4 of the Empyrean series, but this is what we do know is the synopsis on her website as it stands right now.
Okay.
Threshing Day is coming. 13 unforgettable stories, one legendary day, the bond that changes everything. So these are 13 short stories from different characters' perspectives. We don't know who yet, although there's been lots of different speculations. And if you are not in the Fourth Wing Empyrean world, Threshing Day is the day that every first year student in like the War Academy goes through. Basgayeth is the name of the academy, if anybody cares. That all these students go through, and it's where they find out if they've bonded with a dragon or not. It's very intense. There's a lot that's going on. So it's the stories of basically how all of these different writers, I'm assuming throughout history, I'm guessing it's more than just the characters who are in the here and now in the books, because there are a lot of historical figures that they talk about,
Yeah.
how they bonded with their dragons, which I think will be really interesting, especially if it is from like the first person perspective, because in Fourth Wing, you have like a mind-to-mind connection with your dragons. So you get to know like everybody's inner
Some
thoughts,
dragon
kind of.
POV. Yeah.
Yes. I'm really excited. I'm one of those people that I try not to speculate too much when it comes to like the next book in a series that's coming
Yeah.
out. I'm not big on like fan theories. Like I
Mhm.
don't want to guess what's coming because I know that I cannot put myself into like the shoes of these authors. Like they've been developing this story for years.
Yeah.
I'll speculate here and there, but I'm
Oh,
definitely,
totally.
yeah, I'm not the type of person that's like, oh my gosh, like the 13 stories are definitely going to come from X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Like this is how we know. And
Right. You don't have a serial killer wall in your bedroom. Like, there's no red yarn. Yeah.
because I feel like oftentimes, like I have friends who are like that, and it's like, then it's not what you think it is. And then you get really disappointed.
Don't you love listening to them talk about
I
it?
do. I love
Okay.
listening to the theories.
Because I'm over here like, I I I will watch someone's like 4-hour YouTube essay of theories and things they thought about a whole series over all this time. And I'll just sit there and be like, that is fascinating.
Yes.
And I'm like bopping around the house, cleaning, doing whatever. And I'm just like, wow, you have so much passion about this. And like, I'm just listening to
Yeah.
them talk about something they love, but I have zero stock in anything that they're
Yes.
saying.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. I'm right there with you.
Yes.
I
I
don't
love
theorize. I
to,
don't
yeah.
like, yeah,
I love to absorb that type of
absolutely.
content.
Yes, I'm eating it up.
And then I always go through like the moment where, in a lot of them, it's like, it's clear that somebody forgot like one crucial fact that unravels the whole thing. And
The,
it's like,
the whole thing.
do I comment and be like, hey, you forgot about so and so? And
Mhm.
like unravel all of the thought and effort that they put into this theory? Or do I just like let it go?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And sometimes I'm just like, "Ah, you had fun, didn't you?"
Yeah. Like,
And I'm just like, thanks for the watch. I'm
yes.
happy I got to hear this.
Like,
But it's so true.
yeah.
No, I'm with you on that. I love a theory. I don't participate in them.
Yes.
I just I got a text from my sister the other night. It's like 11 p.m. I'm half asleep. And I look at my phone and it says, "Can you get me an early copy of the new Fourth Wing book?" Question mark. And I just replied, all caps, LOL. And the next morning I like actually responded to her. But I was like, yeah, no, sorry, girl. Those come with like NDAs
Yes.
and
Yeah. Unfortunately, nobody has an early
nobody's getting
copy.
that. Yeah,
Yes. Very few and far between.
right.
Um, yeah,
So
no.
that it's just one of those moments where I'm like, Oh, I felt important in that moment of
Yes.
like, I'm glad
Yes.
you think I could get that for
Yes.
you,
You
but
have to have, like, the talk. It's like, my power only extends so far.
my power only goes so far. And I think if I were to get it, it would also then have to come with like a whole conversation. And,
Yes.
which fine. Hey, Rebecca, if you want to come on again,
Yes.
hello.
Rebecca, if you want to give me an early copy of Thrashing Day, I promise I will not have any theories going into it. I
I,
just want to read the book.
I promise I just want to read it. Well, my next pick, very, very fitting for the tangent I just went on. It's called Feeling Like an ADHD Alien by Pina Varnell. It is out September 15th. It's a graphic novel from the Penguin Young Readers Group. It's candid, comforting, and practical. This graphic novel is an endearing portrayal of the ups and downs of living with ADHD. Kiki has always felt different from other people. She loses track of time, she daydreams when she should be paying attention, she questions all the rules and shows her emotions more strongly than her friends. But through trial and error, and error, and error, she discovers her own way to succeed and to connect with her loved ones. And eventually, she discovers a truth that makes all the difference, that she has been living with undiagnosed ADHD. Now, Kiki can get real help in managing her disorder and a new understanding of why she has been feeling more like an alien than a typical high school student. Through disarmingly honest, fictional anecdotes and enlightening interludes that explain the specifics of ADHD, Pina Varnell shares her own life experiences and hard won knowledge. So, again, that is Feeling Like an ADHD Alien by Pina Varnell, out September 15th. I think stories like these are very important, especially for our YA readers, especially for our younger readers. And I think making it a graphic novel just makes it super accessible. And a title like that, I feel like it's very ridiculous anime title of the like, I fell in love with a Viscount and fell through time and
Yes.
space. Like that kind of title. Have I watched any of that? No. Makes me giggle every time I see it. And this, there's just something about it. Like,
Yeah.
you know what this is about and you know if you need it. So, also, if you have someone in your life that's dealing with ADHD, diagnosed or otherwise, could be a good source of empathy if you're needing a little bit of that to understand what they're going through.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love
And
that. And
I'm a sucker for a graphic novel.
I was gonna say, graphic novel, like, it's just the perfect format for something like this.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people have really good intentions about wanting to learn more and be understanding. And I think sometimes the way to do that, sometimes we'll give ourselves the like, well, at least I wanted to try. But there has to be an easier way than like a 20-part podcast series or a 3-hour video or like a 14,000 page book. And sometimes it's a graphic novel. And sometimes it's like graphic memoir of just like my experience in dealing with XYZ. So yeah, consider your options, people.
Absolutely. All right. My next two books are actually both about witches. So
Ooh,
we're entering the witch part of my of
can't
my
wait.
picks. So first we have The Witches of Cambridge, and this is by Alice Hoffman, who is the author of Practical Magic. And this book is coming out September 8th. And this is a brand new series set in 1950s Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Oh, whoa. Brand new series?
Brand new series. Yes, so this will be
Alice,
the first
girl.
one.
Okay.
Yes. And
Dang.
this is considered a historical fiction, although,
Okay.
again, there's witches. So maybe you want to consider it historical fantasy, depending on whether or not you believe witches are out in the world. I'll let
You
you make that
know,
decision.
whatever works for y'all.
Yes. Once upon a time, women were drowned in the river, and the only witnesses were the crows in the trees. The Puritans blamed Eve for the sins of the world. That was when we began to meet in the name of Lilith, Adam's first wife, banished for refusing to do as she was told. We fly together. By the 1950s, Cambridge, Massachusetts feels far removed from the legendary witch trials that marked its early days as a colony. Ava, a bright young woman from a small town in Maine, arrives for her first year at Radcliffe College. There she meets Lauren, her opposite in every way, the wild and brazen daughter of a wealthy and well-established Cambridge family. But the two have more in common than they think. Both are recruited by the Lilith Society, a secret organization of witches at Radcliffe dating back to colonial times. As they learn more about their legacy, Ava and Lauren form a close bond that is put to the test as they learn to navigate their new power, friendship, and love. While Radcliffe seems like a safe haven, the shadow of McCarthyism looms large, an ever-present threat to the flourishing creative and intellectual life in Cambridge. And as girls from the Lilith Society begin to go missing, Ava and Lauren realize the witch trials of the past may not be as deeply buried as they once believed.
I'm so here for that.
Yes.
I love witch books, and I love a 50s vignette. Like, I love a
Yes.
50s setting for a quick story
Yes.
time. So
Also, I love the fact that this is set in the 1950s and our two main
yes.
characters are named Ava and Lauren, which do not feel like
They
50s
don't
names.
feel like they even remotely fit. Maybe Lauren, I guess.
Maybe. I feel like they're so, like, both of those names are so, like, 90s, 2000s.
Right. It should be like Betty Sue and.
But I almost love that because I feel
Yes.
like the type of people that might get drawn to a society like this, maybe they do have unusual
Maybe they have the
names.
outlier names. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
I also love this because, like I said, it comes out September 8th. And in late September, early October, I am doing a New England road trip up through, like, all New England up to Maine and back. And we will be passing through, we'll be in Massachusetts. We're going to pass through Salem, all of that good stuff. So I'm thinking I've got it on my holds already. I'm hoping that it comes in at just the right time. If the holds gods are with me, that I will have the audiobook for my road trip, because I think that'll just be the perfect setting as we're driving through the fall foliage up in New England.
Love New England. Love Massachusetts. Have you been to Salem before?
I have not.
Okay. Well, I will be interested to hear what you think when you get back.
I definitely think that we're going to do we'll get out and explore, but it's going to be more of a stop on the way. We're not staying there. We're not, I will probably be there right around the first week of October, which I also have heard that it gets nuts in the month of October, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious because I've heard a lot of things, and like, I love history. So I love to go anywhere where there's going to be like tours and lots of historical stuff. But I also am not a huge fan of when like the tourism has taken over and it gets to be a little like kitschy. And I've heard that Salem maybe is a little bit in that category.
Yeah. It definitely is. I'd also say, like, it's not what you expect.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the best way to put it, is that, like, you forget that New England space is at a premium, so it is packed year round.
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited. It'll be
a great time.
It'll be a great, like,
it's perfect timing to be
great
there
audio
too.
book to like set the mood.
Oh yeah. And I mean, Alice Hoffman can't go wrong.
Oh yeah. It'll be great.
Well, my penultimate pick is my final graphic novel for this month. And when I read the description, the listeners will know what triggered this for me. This is Pretty Evil by Rebecca and David Ian McKendry and Tim Seeley. This will be out September 15th. This is K-pop Demon Hunters meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the sparkling, darkly funny young adult graphic novel following a teen pop star who must take up her missing mother's demon-slaying mantle and battle her way through the monster-infested world of social media influencers. Honestly, that alone sounds incredible to me. Yeah, sold. I recently watched all of Buffy for the first time with my boyfriend, and we are now, well, we've paused Angel for a bit. We're in the midst of Angel, but I also hadn't seen Project Runway, and we needed a break from Angel, so we're currently watching some Project Runway. But so Buffy is now like one of my trigger words. Where I'm like, oh, Buffy adjacent, please, I would love that. So to her fans, Mallory, heart over the eye, thank you very much, is the ultimate teen pop star. Platinum albums, a massive online following, and a glittery pink lifestyle to die for. But in her own life, Mallory Martin just wants to be her own person, free from the pressures of stardom, not to mention her momager's controlling hand. After a particularly vicious fight with said mom, Mallory wakes up to find her gone, with no clue where or why. In desperation, Mallory calls the police, whose search uncovers not her missing mother, but several bodies buried in the basement of their Hollywood Hills mansion. The bodies don't stay secret for long, not with Mallory's legions of fans watching her every move. With rumors flying about Mrs. Martin's secret serial killer lifestyle, Mallory flees the public eye, only to discover her mom was indeed living a double life as a demon slayer. She's been abducted, and Mallory can't let that fight be their last conversation. So to get her back, Mallory will have to pick up where her mom left off, hacking her way through demons and boogeymen, all with her trademark sparkle. So again, that is Pretty Evil by Rebecca McKendry, David Ian McKendry, and Tim Seeley. Out September 15th. There's not a ton to say about that other than I know that'll be a good time.
Yeah.
I know at the very least, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it. It'll be a good, quick read.
Yes. And
perfect.
The supernatural fan in me, as soon as I hear oh, mom was a demon hunter and now she has to take up the mantle, I'm like, okay, I know where this is going. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's go.
I think I've seen this film before.
Yes, exactly. All right. So my second witch book of the day.
Perfect.
We have A Time of Witches by Madeline Martin, and this is a fantasy. Lilith Lagar's life is unraveling. Since her mother's death, strange things have been happening. Plants turn toward her, animals linger in her path, and the birthmark on her arm has started tingling. Worse still is her recurring nightmare of being burned alive at the stake. Her search for answers brings her from Savannah to England, to the decaying Breckenmore Manor, where the past blurs with the present. There, Lilith discovers a legacy she never asked for, and along with it, the threat of peril. History must be rewritten, or she too will die. In 1645, Suffolk, Sybil Brantham stands accused as a witch. An educated, wealthy widow, she is branded a threat by men who fear her independence. As arrests begin and suspicion abounds, Sybil must protect her younger sister, even as betrayal takes root within her household. Across centuries, Lilith and Sybil are bound by blood and by danger. To save themselves and each other, they must confront the silence that has stolen women's power for generations and dare to claim their voices before it's too late. And that comes out September 1st.
Ooh, okay. I'm here for that.
Yes.
I love that not only 2 witch books, but 2 witch trial books.
Yes, very specific. It's kind of giving the dual timeline of it all is giving Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil.
Yes, absolutely.
That's definitely what I was thinking as I was reading this description, and I love that book. And I also love, this is the second, both of my witch books mention Lilith in different capacities.
Yep.
And then also my second book where we've got a main character named Sybil. In The Knave and the Moon, there is also Sybil.
You know what? We'll take it.
Yeah.
Synchronicities.
I was like, okay, what 2 names to show up in 2 different books?
Of all the things.
Yes.
Yeah, very on trend.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Well, my last pick is a debut, but it is a YA debut from an incredible Gothic master. Isabel Cañas has a new title coming out, and like I said, it's a stunning YA debut. It's called The House of Gardenias. It'll be out September 29th. She's gonna keep us waiting. You have very likely read The Hacienda or Vampires of El Norte or The Possession of Alba Diaz. All incredible books, and so I cannot wait to pick this up. Despite near constant political violence in the city and an abusive father at home, Minerva Trevino's cowardice has kept her alive for 16 years. But even she has a limit. Unable to take another beating or miss another meal, Minerva musters enough courage to flee to a neighborhood full of rich people loyal to the deposed fascist viceroy and take a job as lady's maid to a wealthy widow. Minerva is happy serving Encarnacion de Val. She has food in her belly and safety of a warm house lit by a magical chispa. Why should she care who runs the country or how her employer affords the magic? When the viceroy sweeps back into power, Encarnacion gleefully retreats to the family's mountainside estate to wait out the inevitable slaughter of the viceroy's enemies. And of course, Minerva may join her. At La Casa de la Gardenias, Minerva is surrounded by more experienced servants at the cruel, scheming de Vals. But the living residents of the house are the least of anyone's worries, and Minerva quickly discovers that the ancient estate is home to forces far older and more bloodthirsty than anything she could have imagined. So again, that is The House of Gardenias by Isabel Cañas, out September 29th. Isabel for me has become an auto borrow. Historical fiction was not my bag. It's still not really my genre. No disrespect, because I love all the every time I do sit down and read historical fiction, I love it. So I don't really know what that means for me as a reader. It's just not what I tend to lean toward. But her writing, because it blends kind of like horror elements and thriller elements with historical fiction and kind of like sweeping Gothic and Mexican traditions, like something about that just, I don't know, it all culminates so beautifully in my brain. And I really want to see how she handles her YA work, because yeah, I don't know. I feel like her writing generally is just like pretty transcendent. So I think it'll be interesting. Also love that there's, I truly like hadn't read that description before. I was like, oh, what? There's magic? So if you are watching and you see surprise creep through my
Like,
eyes,
surprise!
I was indeed surprised. So I would very much like to understand the magic system. What on earth is going on? Like, yeah, I'm here for it.
And I always love when an author makes their YA debut, or if they're a YA
Debut into
author, they
something
make a
else.
debut.
Yeah.
Like, it's just always so interesting to see how they adjust for the audience, how they adjust for the genre. So that'll be really interesting to see. It sounds good.
I'm very interested, especially with Isabel, because there is something about it where I'm like, I don't know. I feel like other than maybe it's a little more than some YA readers might want to read, like with her other book in terms of just like duration. I don't know. I feel like it would just be a wonderful, like, this shows you what other kind of books are out there that they don't have to be like what you're seeing in school, you know? So I'm very curious to see what translation she makes of her style
Yeah.
into YA.
All right. We've made it
Okay.
to the
We've
final
made it to
book.
the end.
I'm ending today with Fallow by Sarah Anderson. And this is a book that maybe even 6 months ago, if I had seen the cover, I don't know that it would have stopped me in my tracks. But it distinctly reminds me of, I believe it's the UK cover for Yesteryear. And like the colors are very similar. And that's what made me stop. At which point I realized that there were, and the covers I believe will be up on screen. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you guys can see what I'm talking about. So there's this cow, and like the bottom part of the cover has like the rolling fields in the back. And then the top third has very corporate looking like lights, like what you would
Mhm.
expect as you're like walking through an office building. You know, you've got panels with the lights in between.
Yep.
That's what we're seeing here. And the combination of the fact that it made me think of Yesteryear and wondering why we've got rolling hills at the bottom and corporate lights at the top stopped me in my tracks. And I do think, as I read the description for this, that if you were somebody who liked Yesteryear or
Mhm.
was interested by Yesteryear, it is not the same, but I do think that you would be interested in this as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Natalie knows one truth. There is no such thing as a good job. As the clock ticks away at the call center where she logs complaints of workplace harassment, she tries to ignore the increasing pain in her jaw. She has no dental insurance. She has no skills or ambitions. She has student loans. And minute by minute, she hears the many ways workers are not just getting by, but actually getting hustled. Then, at the blood bank where she sells her plasma, a mysterious flyer leads her to the capital company. Natalie turns out to be the perfect candidate for their pilot program, pitched as an opportunity to help women access greater gender equity. She will be their in-house surrogate, delivering 7 babies in 10 years and enabling their executives to have motherhood without maternity leave. Finally, she will be adequately, generously compensated. For years, her every need is met. Stacks of healthy meals in the refrigerator of a luxury condo, fitness coaches and nutritionists around the clock healthcare. Between deliveries, she takes time off, a fallow period, with no obligations or expectations. For the first time in her life, she is good at her job. For the first time, she feels free. But just as she's about to fulfill the terms of her contract, a staffing decision upends everything. Natalie is pulled into an entirely different kind of social experiment, one that raises new questions about her future, her freedom, her purpose, what she can expect from the world, and what she can offer to it.
Incredible.
Yes.
I'm so in.
Yes.
Like, I pulled up the cover and I went, oh, yeah, I'll be reading that. Like, you hadn't even
Yes.
started the description yet. I'm like, yep,
Yes.
that for sure would just, I could tell from the cover that that's on my, this is a weird book list.
Yes.
And I'm so down. But that description, that sounds incredible.
It sounds so good. And it's like as I was reading this and thinking about Yesteryear, because I read that when it came out, and thinking like, yes, this is kind of for the same audience, which makes sense when you
Right.
like think about like the cover design. Not that anyone was sitting down and
Yeah.
saying like, let's, but maybe thinking for the same audience and thinking about
Right.
like, even though this is absolutely like, it's like the exact opposite of trad wife. It's
Mhm.
like, how can we be as corporate girl boss as possible without taking any time off? It
Mhm.
still like feels kind of in like the same realm of like just
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of like the other side of the Yesteryear story. Like,
Yes.
if you are, so yeah, we saw what happens to the trad wife who is full time at home. What about the side that develops because people can't ever take time to step away? And I don't know, I think it's such an interesting observation. And I don't know, I think it's like a wonderful condemnation of the state of our world right now,
Yes.
that you don't have to get into the like it's satire fight that
Yes.
Yesteryear had to deal with. That this is like
Yes.
there's no satire here. This is in your face
Yeah.
what's going on. You have to be confronted by the elephant in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh.
This sounds so unique to me. It also feels like one of those books where like I read the description, I'm like, yes, I have to read this. And also I probably need to be in the right headspace to read this because I just feel like it's going to push some buttons and like
Yeah.
it's probably going to make you uncomfortable. And yeah.
It's one where you can almost see things creeping in between the lines. Like, there are things in there that are going to make, I think, anyone who reads it feel a lot. And that's just by like what's unsaid.
Yes, I am very excited for this one. This
Oh,
also, as I was reading it, immediately was thinking this would be a great book for a book club. Like you can just tell,
yeah.
like there's going
Yeah.
to be a lot to unpack here.
I think, yes, if you have an adventurous book club, if you have a
Yes.
book club that's
Yes.
used like your book club, my book club, absolutely, absolutely, when we're the ones picking the books and going, I'm making you read something weird this month.
Yes.
But right, yes, if you can challenge your book club, I also think books like this, even if you are in more of a traditional book club where you're kind of sticking to some of the safety guidelines of, what every other book club's doing, I would challenge you to throw in
Yes.
one like this a year. Just one. If
Yes.
you meet, 12 times a year, if you meet 6 times a year, whatever, use this as one of them. Well, maybe let us read it first and talk about it
We'll
back to
get
you.
back to you on that
Just in
one.
case, we'll get back to you on it. But the challenge still remains, like, pick
Yes.
one weird one to
Yeah.
just, because those are the books that get people talking.
They do. And the book club that I am in is an all women book club. And it's actually for like a women's leadership organization. And as the person who like kind of introduced the book club to the group and has thus set the rules for the group, I kind of have made it so like nothing's off the table. And
Yes.
so we'll read like, we'll say every time we'll pick a romance and we're like, that was a terrible discussion because romance, like there's happily ever after, like there's only so much you could talk about. We do
Right.
a lot of stuff that I'm sure other book clubs would not find quite as
Yeah.
safe. And this is something that like I could literally see like the opinions of my friends in the book club like
Mhm.
forming before I've even read the book, before they've read the book. Like I can feel the way that the conversation is going
Absolutely.
to flow. And it's always books like this where it's like, it's something that has a little, I'm assuming it will have social commentary in it and will also be funny and a little bit frightening. And it's going to make you feel things. And like, those are just best
And we need
books.
that. We need that.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's going to be incredible. I'm like, well, I can't wait to read that. Uh, checking my emails from Macmillan to see if any say, here's a link for this.
Yes. Wouldn't that be great?
Uh,
I know. We got to wait a little bit longer. This one's
just
September 15th.
just a little bit.
So
That's not awful. That's not awful. And there's only like a good like couple hundred books I need to read before then and now anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, Madison, thank you for taking the time to chat with me today.
Yeah, of course.
And friends, let us know which of these books you're adding to your TBRs, or of course, anything that you're looking forward to that we didn't mention in this episode. If you've got a book coming out that you're excited to read in September, pop it down there. I'm sure the other folks would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And as always, happy reading. You can sample and borrow the books from today's episode in the Libby app, or if you're a librarian, find them for purchase in OverDrive Marketplace. Book Lounge by Libby is a proud Evergreen Podcast signature program. Explore more amazing shows at evergreenpodcasts.com. This podcast is produced and recorded by me, Joe Skelly, with editing by Andrew Alonso. Our theme music is High Five by Rex Banner, used with permission. Book Lounge by Libby is presented by the Libby app. Learn more at libbylife.com/booklounge.